Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of a research support webinar series. This is our last research support webinar series for 2021. And I would like to welcome everyone for availing themselves. And before we continue, I'm going to take you through some housekeeping rules. I'm going to request for everyone to please mute themselves except for our guest speaker. Mute yourselves so that we can avoid background noise. And also for those who have questions and comments, you can write in our chat box. Our chat box is open for everyone who has any question or comment to be placed. And again, for those who have questions that they would like to raise themselves, they can raise their hands after the presentation, and then we will acknowledge them and give them the opportunity to present their own questions. Today, we do have our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is Prof Mammo Muchie from TUT. Prof Mammo has founded the African Journal on Science, Technology, Innovation and Development in 2008 and serves as its editor-in-chief. He has been given a number of awards: Long Dedicated and Valued Service Award, Best Institutional Senior Research of the Year Merit, Academic Excellence Award, Outstanding Contribution to Science, Engineering, Technology, and Innovation by NTSF in South Africa. Professor Muchie scholarly contributed to the discipline of innovation, in strengthening and textualizing, the theoretical framework of national innovation system as applied to the African context. The principles and theory of the national innovation system as it is practiced in the developed and industrial economies and could not be applied directly to the developing or underdeveloped and largely agrarian economies of the African continent. Prof. Muchie took up the mammoth task of producing an impressive body of research on the innovation system in whatever rudimentary forms or degrees of evaluationary state they exist in various African countries. He taught over 400 doctoral candidates in doctoral academics across the world in Global Leagues, Africa Leagues, SECA Leagues, India Leagues networks. He has taken major initiative for running doctoral and master's academy in various universities in Africa and all over the world. One such academy recently organized by the Association of Commonwealth Universities. Also, he has been invited for many keynote addresses and lectures in Africa and worldwide. He is the founder of the African Postgraduate Academy that has been training masters and doctoral students drawn from different disciplinary backgrounds, applying the unity of knowledge approach to upgrade the quality supervision. He has published over 400 papers, book chapters, articles, and has delivered many keynotes across the world and has promoted TUT with regular interviews on newspapers, TV, and radio globally. Without any waste of time, I would like us to please welcome our guest speaker, who is Prof. Mammo Muchie. Thank you, Prof. Mammo Muchie. You can now take over.
Thank you very much for this introduction. My name is Mammo. Mammo means a little baby. So all this accolade, you know, like, does it fit with my name? So I really appreciate what you have done, the Africa Institute for Supply Chain Research, and the kind of thing you have done on research webinar series that you have organized is very, very interesting. And you made me really reflect on how the commercialization commercialization matter from research outputs, how we can discuss this and really understand it, and also see what kind of relationships and collaborations are needed to achieve it. The interesting thing was, I was just thinking I should probably reflect on how do the research outputs can be commercialized, or what has been done already in different places like South Africa or the rest of Africa and so on, even India, China, and all this, and in the Western world. I think would have been nice to also just understand the data, exactly what has been done already. What we know is that the commercialization side, what I read, we need to do the investigation. On the Africa side, it's still the output, research output does not immediately get commercialized. So there is that low rate. It's not a high rate. And the main reason is lack of support from the university management system, insufficient incentives also, and also limited access to funding to support the transformation from research output to commercialization. And there are also in many universities regulations, bureaucratic regulations, institutional challenges, and I think there's also a relationship on technology transfer and intellectual property management. We have this kind of broad challenges that we face. But let me just go through the PowerPoint that I prepared, and I want us to not take a long time. So let me go through that. And okay. Okay, all right. I go with inspiration, and how do we go about doing research that solves problems rather than that create problem? Why is commercialization important? What are the processes, the commercialization process that are required? What is the effective way to help research output commercialization? And now we're in the digital, in the artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things time, 3D printing and all this. And then the fourth and fifth industrial revolution. How will also digital technology impact on how we do research? Maybe now we may not do physical publications, we may be uploading many things like that. So if we do that, how do we also, if we want to commercialize it, what does it mean? How does the internet approach also affect us? There is also the knowledge exchange framework rating. There's a rating system that has been, and the research excellence framework rating. And I want to mention that to you, how that can be done. And how do we achieve a knowledge exchange rating, and how research excellence rating. Those things are also important. And then I will conclude with some ideas. Just an inspiration, do research with action and take action with research. That's very important. I think research is very, very necessary for all of us. It's we need to find out how to go by actually undertaking some research. Even life itself is research, and even the way we work around, even though we may not do it like a study, like undertaking research, but in terms of life itself, it's also every day we engage in research. So make and enable the future with research. I think that would be very good. Instead of predicting the future and saying, let's have this future, better to do the research to enable us to actually achieve a concrete outcome in the risk for the future. The overall goal of research is to make an impact. That's very important. Maybe some people just do research for the sake of it, but I think it's important that we have some concrete impact, and the impact should be impact on the people and society, the health and education and welfare and well-being of, I think that's, it should have like that. Address the challenge of research output and outcome with commercialization. Now, this is a very important challenge, how we can do research output and outcome, all right, and create the impact through commercialization. So treat research as hard work, as fun. It would be good to have joy in doing research. It's hard to do it. There's a lot of challenges, but it'll be good to do it like that. So that's very important also. And at the heart of all research is an endeavor to find out, to investigate, to confirm, to probe, to test, to see, to view, to measure, to correlate, to compare, to evaluate, to find meaning, to gain understanding, or to discover new emerging properties. So there's so much in the research world. What don't we do? So the future is not some place we're going, but one we're creating. The paths to it are not found, but made. And the activity of making them change for the makers and the destination. The research output we make also changes both we who are doing the research and the destination. And if we commercialize it, it might even impact in terms of changing our lives. So I mean, something like that is very important. Do research with empathy and feel compassion. Do research with love and feel spirited energy. Do research with hope and feel positive. Know about research with humor and feel fun. Know innovation to further research without bias and with positive spirit. Don't fail to do research for innovation at all to address the current global risk of massive job losses that the current robotic time might create. I mean, this digital technology time creates job losses, and it may help us to create new jobs, but these jobs, we need to know how to address them. And this idea of commercializing also in the innovation time, when we have e-currency, electronic currency, and not, we may not have, you know, all the currencies you see, the physical currency may disappear. We may do everything electronically. So again, we must think about how do we also do this challenge in terms of commercializing electronic. E-commerce is coming, which is quite an important thing. So how do we change research output to e-commerce also? Because the digital time is quite now very all-pervasive. All advances in scientific understanding at every level begin with a speculative adventure, an imaginative preconception, what might be true, a preconception which always and necessarily goes a little way, sometimes a long way beyond anything which we have logical or factual authority to believe in. It is the invention of a possible world, of a tiny fraction of that world. The conjecture is then exposed to criticism to find out whether or not that imagined world is anything like the real one. Scientific reasoning is therefore at all levels an interaction between two episodes of thought, a dialogue between two voices, the one imaginative and the other critical, a dialogue, if you like, between the possible and the actual, between the proposal and the disposal, between conjecture and criticism, between what might be true and what is in fact the case. This is very interesting, the hope of progress. Now we need hope, the security of hope, and we need to develop with an imagination and knowledge that allows us to actually create something very good. And the research world must also be managed very well. So doing problem-solving research, the key thing is how do we solve problems and not create problems with research? We need to do work-integrated based research. That's if we really want the commercial side to be engaged, work-integrated, meaning when there's that aspect in the research area, it affects how the world works, which means how to change it, how to improve it also. Context-specific research, in other words, we need to identify the context of any problem that we are doing research on. Project-based research, we need to also have ideas about what new projects we need to want to address. And problem-based research, we need to generally to, and now we're facing demographic explosion in the world. We're facing climate change. We're facing COVID-19. These kind of problems must also be now drivers to make us actually address with research how to find solutions for them. because at the moment we're confused with so many problems in the world. So the research must be quality research, high quality research, and it must be excellent research, and that has to be done. Now, how do we the research output from all of them? And then, of course, action-based research too. I should have added action. Action is also important. The research you do is not just for theoretical and also to just generate, it must also generate action. How do we do that too? So we need research output from all of them, and then the commercialization should be added to them. But commercialization is not just for profit making, for individual gain, but for really developing, achieving some product, some new creation, all right, that is can be valued from the research, from the laboratory, from everything we do, from the patent, from the publications we do, something to come out so that people can actually value it. So the research output should create spin-outs and real ventures. That's what we should be doing. So research output and impact, output, I don't mean income, outcome, I mean impact, quadruple helix collaboration. This is so important that we need now to find a way where communities, industry, government, and universities collaborate. The relationship should be very well done. In other words, there must be situations where universities should go to communities, industry should go to universities, some interlinkages could happen. Now, I must tell you that once I was in Canada, I saw in Canada, there were PhDs were not just evaluated on by the number of theses people write, or even the number of paper publications. Also, for creating companies, businesses, all right? If the people worked and create a patent, from the patent, they also generate a venture. If they create that venture and they do it through the knowledge side, and that relationship exists, they know what they said, they can also get degrees. In other words, even the evaluation criteria changed. Can you imagine? So we need to focus research to create knowledge on real life world problems. We need to have multi-stakeholder research engagement participation. We need reality, context-specific, innovative research output to make it a priority. We need to do research output for venture startups to create new jobs is preferred. Job creation is important. Graduates must not just be seekers of jobs. They must be creators. If they want to create, then the research output they do must also be commercialized. New products, new services must come out of what they do. So the commercialization and selection from the research producers, how do we then reach out to the consumers? How do we generate the products that actually others value? You know, it's not just the market, but it's actually something new that was created, that a new product that is fascinating to people. Oh, this is very interesting, or something like that. So we need to know the research idea to select, the research idea to generate, the research output to reach the market, to ensure the output, to make sure the output that is created is viable, manage the output to reach market level, prototype development and design must be done properly, initial testing and trial must be done. So the whole process must go through modification and redevelopment. You need to go back again to it, test it, go back again, further testing, including market testing, further modification output is necessary also. So you need to go back and forth to make sure that the entire process in the commercialization side is also well done. So the research process, also innovation pathway. Framing the research innovation process is important. From start to completion, the value chain, knowing what to do and not do must be known. Doing what is known clearly, creating high quality output, publishing or producing patents, creating a new venture. So research output that includes all stakeholders to produce inventive practice performing, transforming researchers is very, very much necessary. So commercialization process, research idea selection, research idea generation, research output the market to ensure the output is valuable, managing the output to reach market level. And I think I've already said this very much. And further testing, including market testing, and then further modification output if necessary. You should do that. How to support research output commercialization? All fields must be included. Usually the social sciences and the humanities are not included. Mainly engineering, medical sciences, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the knowledge, learning, innovation, competence building systems, mathematics, physical and life sciences are included. But social sciences and humanities must also. Universities should have licensing and venture teams to evaluate the commercial potential of all research outputs, researchers to do partnerships with industry, to promote entrepreneurial driven ventures, to do startup incubation, university support with intellectual property, all right, technology transfer, legal and licensing, and all relevant support, including how to allocate the market success so the research output should be done properly. Going from research lab to market, technology commercialization is also very, very important. How do we create also the right technology to make it into a product that can also be, the consumers may not be the people in the market. The consumers may be the technology you create, must be to all sectors and stakeholders. So engage industry in the university to educate students, research output to make inventions as marketable products, research outputs as useful products and services for the benefit of the public. Research by inventors and entrepreneur graduates. How do we create that? Create graduates that invent, that create, that innovate, that are entrepreneurial, that are not job seekers, that are job creators, that commercialize also whatever they produce, the product they produce, the output of the research they do, the outcome they do can be transferred. So research output, optimal value creation. How to redesign and restructure the research value chain. The way to do from the beginning to the end. You need to have a process where you manage the research value chain very well. The way to do university industry community research link is very, very important. We must have now situations. I was in Bangalore in India and the Silicon Valley areas where the industry people are also in the university and the university students go to industry. And in fact, some of the industry people teach. I mean, if you go to Bangalore, it's fascinating how they do it. It's a very interesting development. As an example, very interesting example. It's like the Silicon Valley also. They did it in India, and it was fascinating. I was there for, I think, for a week or so, and I was fascinated by what I saw, what they were doing. And from the colleges, some of the industry people come and give lectures, things like that. The way to evaluate the output, the way to reach the market, the way to solve the current major problems is very, very important. Now the digital technology, how to do research under this digital time, and how to do output, and how this is going to change, and even how we do the market, what we sell, what we buy, all these things now in this digital time. We may do it now, technologically, online. We may not do it physically. So if we don't do it, what does this mean also? Time to use socially, environmentally secure digital technology to solve social and environmental problems now. Use digital technology to create a new validation criteria. Not only commerce, market, and economics, but the holistic inclusion of all variables, the health part, the education part, the social solidarity part, the nature safety part. I think we may need to really, given the world is in a difficult time, maybe what we create must be valuable, not just measured by finance and money, but by some value, the usefulness it provides, the novelty, the newness that it generates. Those things must be validated and known. And I think research excellence achievement is important. Research should be scientifically done in order to solve the problem. Research and knowledge can be synonymous, and even imagination can be added. Research output should generate findings that should have tangible quality and impact on society. So important that the research output should not be measured by individually, by what it gives to the individual who did it. It must be the impact it has on society. And that means that then when the research output, if it doesn't have health impact, education impact, and really social and environmental, all these other nice impacts, and if it creates challenges like carbon diet and many things like that, if it creates like that, risks it creates, then we should start thinking about how the negative side must also be addressed, and how that can be handled must be also discussed. Research transfer is a purposeful packaging, communication of the findings and output to provide community service. Research utilization is the application of research-based knowledge in practice and policy with commercialization. Research is knowledge in practice, not theory. So a new paradigm shift to provide an improvement, not just a different explanation, by undertaking research excellence is very much necessary. Now, good to commercialize, but who should gain? Commercialization of research should not only be done to attain personal gain, not just for profit, for individual profit. Achieving widespread sustainable positive impact on society is critically important. Academic innovation excellence for universities is what is very necessary. And the innovation output, the research output, even if it gets commercialized, it must generate more research excellence, motivation of all peers to learn research collaboration to achieve high quality. Reward of research commercialization to motivate researchers must be done. Applying and using centers of excellence, researchers, niche areas, and flagship research. I hold a research chair in South Africa. South African research chair. It's Department of Science, Technology, Innovation, and the National Research Foundation are the ones that run it. The university hosts my research chair. And what we do is really undertaking a lot of research on innovation. And we're doing many interesting things. Even the students I teach, one of the assignments we give them is actually for them to form into groups and create venture startups. If they do that, they get marks. And so, for them to be able to even raise funds for it, some of them told me that they even sold their own cars to raise seed funding to start up their venture startups. It's fascinating. Things like that are happening. I've been doing this for the last 5 years. Recognition, knowledge exchange framework rating. We need to have also some ways by which we validate and we examine and we rate how the commercialization, the value chain, from research output to actually to ultimately to getting a commercial rating. How do we validate it, know it, and rate it, and how do we recognize so the knowledge exchange framework must be rating, recognition must be done. Recognition with research awards and rewards for the excellence in research knowledge output must be done. There must be really that. Provision of rating organizations whose researchers exploit the outputs of their research through commercialization activities like spin-outs and licensing, among other mechanisms, must be done. Encourage researchers to achieve higher ratings in the knowledge exchange framework rating. In other words, if we create something like a knowledge exchange framework and we identify the variables that are required, then the rewards, the awards, all these things, how the researchers can do, rate also their commercialization activities, then that rating is very, very critically important, and that can make a big difference. So research excellence achievement. Research should be scientifically done in order to solve a problem. Research and knowledge can be synonymous. Research output should generate findings that should have tangible quality and impact on society. Research transfer is the purposeful packaging and communication of the findings and output to provide community service. Research utilization is the application of research-based knowledge in practice and policies commercialization. Research is knowledge in practice, not theory, as I said. A new paradigm shift to provide an improvement, not just a different explanation by undertaking research excellence. So again, the research excellence framework rating. In the research excellence framework, the system for assessing the quality of research, commercialization of all research output in all fields, including the social science research, can be a major plus point in evaluating an organization or a university. Impact is graded by assigning a star rating to research on an ascending scale. The science, technology, engineering, mathematics disciplines achieve many high-star research excellence framework rating from their commercialization act. In principle, social and human science commercialization activity should be able to do the same, but they are not. The social and human sciences are low, but the engineering and mathematics disciplines are better. Good to commercialize it, who should gain? I think I have already mentioned this. So some examples of graduates to be innovators: advanced course on creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship I created, I just mentioned to you. The students are expected to do startup venture part of the course. And then we also have what we call the African Youth for Change. They are also doing very interesting things. We also created what we call the Pan-African Talent Hub. And then just today we had a very interesting discussion on how to create on a digital entrepreneurial university. And then from Finland, the former, and then the Africa High Commission also was involved. I think fascinating. And they have made me a board a member of that. We're now working on how to create, not talking, but actually creating something very, very interesting. We also have what we call the Kilimanjaro Innovation Hub, and we're working on it. In South Africa here, we have the Science Forum, and we're doing on December 1 to 3, this coming week, next week, we're also having very interesting practical examples about how we can showcase some of the new inventions and innovations that are happening. We also have the African Entrepreneurship Award, and then we had the Youth Empowerment and the Africa Innovation Week. So many interesting activities we do to promote some of the young people to engage in research, to produce, and to also get support. For example, in the African Innovation Week, we were able to give for innovators, inventors fund. And I was a mentor in assessing some of the people that should get the funding. So things like that is what we have been doing. So to conclude, research has to be innovative. Innovation has to be research-driven. Problem-based research has to be integrated in the research system. And if synthesis is a must to solve problems and not add them. At the time of the fourth industrial revolution, there's a need to be smart, green, research-wide, innovative by solving problems and not using the current exponential technology to create them. So sincere appreciation to my brother, Professor Ravinder, and Miss Vinolia Masipa. She has been very helpful, and she helped me with and all of the team of the African Institute for Supply Chain Research webinar series, and all of you who participated. I could see a lot of my brothers from India, and you know, India has created the best philosophy, and you should not call India India, but call her a civilization, because you have Vasudhi Haiva Kubupakam, one Indian, one family. Don't call some strangers, some relatives. We're all one family. One human family, one world community is what India created. So Asante Sana, thank you very much. I think I've done enough, and let's do some discussion. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Prof, for a wonderful presentation. Very literative and informative. Before we continue any further, I would like to go through our chat box for some questions. First, we have a question from Robert. It says, thank you for the wonderful presentation, Prof. I would like to know why universities have continued to self-staff and student work in library, and yet the research output can be commercialized. And when it goes further, it says, could you be having organizations that buy research outputs in areas of management and administration?
Very interesting question. Yes. You're right. If the students are spending most of their time in the library and even in the laboratory, and they generate an output, and if the university has no system, all right, how to do the licensing, how to do the intellectual property. If they don't have, for example, the university has management has not organized systematically how these students who did all their research from the lab or the library, what they generate can be commercialized it's not easy to commercialize it because this is created. The intellectual property has to be also known. Who is going to share if the product comes out into the market must also be known. The university also has the share. So if it's not clarified properly, then these students, you're right, will not really genuinely benefit anything. And what we know, what I have seen from the Africa side, is that it's very low rate. There is no commercialization from the student output, research output is not turned into commercialization. The main reason is the management side. The university management is not very good. So I think this is an excellent question you asked, because how do we change the education system, the management system, the bureaucracy, all right? And how do we also engage all the stakeholders that are very important to join? If we don't do this systematically, trust me, we'll not be able to actually stimulate, encourage, right? Make the young people, the young students, when they do their output, to follow it up. From the output, how do we turn it into a product? And if the product, how do we make sure? It's very difficult for them to do it unless there's support. They should collaborate. Like as I just told you, I make the students, I say to them, please collaborate, form a team. We give them time to form a team. And I have a research assistant, he's very, very dynamic, young. He also supports them. So what we do is we just do struggling now, make sure that we stimulate them to see if they could do generate from what they do, they actually can create something. And then I'm pretty sure when they do it, they will be very happy, because some of them already have startup research venture startups. They have done it. So I think it's a question of how do we change the whole education system is very, very important. And I told you it must be action-based, work integrated based, context-based, problem-based, all this solution-based, and then managing them in a different way. So unthink to rethink, unlearn to relearn, unengineer to re-engineer the entire system. And you see, just not doing not just research to produce papers and patents, but from patent, how do you go to, all right, to a company, to a product, the real product, from also the publication output, the research output, how do you also generate a product and make sure that you also commercialize it. This is a serious issue. Thank you very much for asking the very interesting question.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that answer. I hope that Mr. Robert has been answered. We do have another question from Mr. Ernest, which says, I have developed a training manual emanating from my study. How do I get the university to support me to get it to be part of the curriculum? It's a new concept in SA.
Yeah, very interesting. Again, you see, this is interesting. Unless the university, system, the Senate, everything approves it, you will not be able to do it. So, but the interesting question now is for you, how do you go about submitting a proposal about what you're doing, and how can the university, to make sure that the university doesn't reject it? So how do you do it in such a way that you are able to achieve? I think that would be wonderful. If you could do something like that, that would be great. That's my recommendation. The problem is you have to go through the bureaucratic process, but you need to find also people who are like, well, another way you could do it is, it's your idea, but you might want a group of people around the staff around the team. You create a team and you go together and submit it and maybe have a discussion and then move on towards eventually getting support. I know it's not easy, but you could try the best you can. That's what I suggest strongly. It's not easy, I can assure you, but you could try. And maybe when another way to do it is also if the university is not doing it, is there another area you can identify, like other partners you could find, even external partners who support the university. You're not against the university, but those that support it that can also motivate the university to join you. Something like that you could do. That's my suggestion. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to give an opportunity to anyone who'd like to ask a question from the participants. Anyone who has a question, they can just unmute themselves and ask anything they would like to ask. I see Dr. Ravinda, Prof. Ravinda is already on standby, so I'm going to give you an opportunity, sir, to continue with your question. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinolia and Prof Mammo Muchie, the president of the organization. And I really appreciate the presentation made by our dearest professor, Professor Mammo Muchie, our beloved brother. And he brought, in fact, his 30 plus years of experience and all the knowledge that gained through his presentation. That's absolutely insightful. And so we need, presentations such as this to stimulate our scholars from African continent. Indeed, it is more like a comment that in terms of the global research, Africa is a continent we are absolutely lagging behind. If you look at South African side, we got for every 1 million people, the number of researchers are less than 600 people. So South Africa is the second largest economy, and it is largely developed country in terms of educational standards in African continent, but still we got only 600. If we go to Malawi, if we go to Somalia, we don't even have less than 50 people for every million. So that is absolutely sad. If we look at the global side, maybe country like America, there we got more than 5,000 people for every million. And country like India, we got probably less than 150, 160 per million. So this is the scenario. But people, they're unable to come. And particularly for today's topic, the rigor and the relevance and the resilience, these three things are lacking in our research. So probably we learn a lot from this presentation that we need to encourage our young researchers, vibrant researchers, to make their research study more relevant and more pragmatic and more rigor. So if there is no rigor in the research, probably it become irrelevant and people, they don't care about that. So the final part of my comment is that, Prof Mammo, could you just shed a light that I know that you have terrible challenges in our continent, and particularly when it comes to research, our global contribution from African continent is less than 2%. So how do we promote? Of course, there are so many steps that we need to take and so many strategies from the governmental level, non-governmental level, research organizations such as African Institute of Supply Chain Research. So we all should work together hand in hand. But I would like to hear from you, what are your strong motivative factors in five strong motivating factors as young researchers to make them more committed and responsible so that they can contribute pragmatic research, which is essential for our African problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very, very good question and relevant question. I think it would be good if we Africans also learn, not copy, but learn from how other countries from India, from China, from the rest of the world, Europe, America, everywhere. How do they do it? What can we learn from, what can we draw from by not denying our own context, our own, challenges, our own problems, but how did they do it? How did they go about? What is their experience? In other words, what was their research experience, their learning experience, their teaching experience, yes, and their research experience? All these things we need to know. That's one source. The second source is we in Africa should also understand and learn what is, there is a rich knowledge that we don't know about. I mean, that one also we should really try to go in the, even from the rural areas, in all spheres, in all the areas where that matter, we should really focus on that. Not do what is going on now. More researchers go outside, not to Africa. We don't go to Africa. We go to Europe, America. we're not serious. You see, and then of course the funding side. If the funding side is foreign, if the European Union is funding you, USAID, all others are funding you, the research, and Canada and others are funding you, then you see the funding side also affects what kind of research you want to do. What those people approve is not maybe what we think is necessary and important. So again, the funding system has to change. The universities have to also be legitimate in terms of, they must be African universities, not universities in Africa. They must not be like that. So I think what you just asked is very, very important, because what you see in Africa is that we still have our rating is still in all spheres, even though some universities may get some rating a bit, but generally it's not very high. So and the reason is to do with still we are behind. So and then I was just looking at also on this. I didn't give you the data. I wish if there's more time, I could have added specific case studies, and at the same time also the real data. I mean, figures we should have added. I just want to give you more the idea side. So I think if we see it, what I noticed when I just looked at it is that it's the commercial side is very low rating still in all of Africa. We're still not there. So from every side, I can say to you, we have challenges, but we must not be desperate, but we should try to resolve the challenges, find a way to solve the problems. I think that's what we should do. And my imagination is that we have people like you and others, we should be actually very actively engaging and really motivating, and then even doing more like this activity you just did. I wish many people could listen to it, even some of the university managers in the management community, if they were able to see it, even the different stakeholders, it will make a difference. They'll be listening to some of these new ideas that are necessary, that are, very useful. They could learn and they could make a difference. I think that's what my brief suggestion is to your important question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Prof. I'm going to now hand over to Prof Makasambe. I see your hand is up, so I'm going to give you the opportunity, sir, to present your own question.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks, Prof Mammo. Indeed, you've done excellently. We do really enjoy the discussion. And just like what Prof Rena indicated, it comes with experience. And you begin by highlighting some of the fundamental challenges which we have, in the country and the continent, in terms of this low level of commercialization of research output. Most institutions have focused in terms of getting the numbers, in terms of the subsidies, and they've not really been too much focus in terms of the commercialization aspect, probably because of the issues of around capacity. But nevertheless, what I also find is that in terms of research and selling out the research output in terms of what impact it is to the community. I know you've already talked about what we can learn from Europe and America, but you realize that there's a different culture in terms of research. There is an issue of trust in terms of industry with academia. And right now we are battling for industry to trust us. And often you engage in the industry, they will tell you that they are academics, they know only theory. And therefore, despite the engagement that we try as much as possible to be able to engage with industry and practice, practice, but you still find there's still that perception, what can be done that we can be able to alleviate that particular challenge so that the output from the research that we are conducting can be recognized and we can be able to commercialize it. We can be able to turn it into intellectual properties, which we can be able to make meaningful contribution out of it. I know, and probably when you respond, that is one of the key value proposition for the African Institute, which we say that we want to be able to blend theory and practice, so that when we bring from the theoretical component that we know, we integrate with practice and leading industry practitioners in terms of our research, education, and training programs. We could be able to come out with product out there that can be able to shape policy decision making. But you know very well that for those things to happen, you need trust, you need support, you need top institutions in the continent to be able to buy that value propositions, because without the relevant resources, we cannot be able to achieve that objective. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, again, very important question. I think the biggest challenge we have is from what I see from the education system, there is we still have not like, how can I say to you, the education we do is again something that is mainly from the Western world. I mean, even the books we read, the textbooks we develop and so on. But now that we are in this digital technology time, where there's different ways by which we could actually reflect how to actually generate ways by which we can actually create ways by which we can make it action-based and solution-based and encouraging, stimulating, simulation-based. How do we do it like that? We need a discussion, serious discussion. And this is not just a discussion among the university, the different universities, but it should be a kind of, we need an education, an African Education Commission. In fact, my friends and me, we wrote to the African the African Union chair. We wrote to them about, I don't know, 5 years ago. We said there should be an African Education High Commission, a separate one, so that we can actually find a way to revitalize, redesign, and really develop a whole education system that solves, as you rightly put it, problems, that makes the research output, all these things we do to make it more practical and to change our agriculture, to solve our problems, all the problems Africa has. you know, the service sector and manufacturing, all the areas. How do we go about creating a situation where that even all the African problems can be addressed, and then all from the Africa side that has been ignored can be included. I just wanted to say to you, there was a guy called Lewis Wolpert. He was a South African white man, but he was teaching in England. In 1994 in Durban, there was Durham, I'm sorry, I said Durban. Durham in England. We had a conference and we're on the science. And then he said, he wrote a book called The Unnatural Nature of Science. And in that book of Natural Nature of Science, he said all non-Western science are primitive and mystical. I nearly was so upset, you would not believe it. I mean, I fought him very well. Black Athena, you know, books that were written in the Greek origin, everything originated from Africa. And then I even said, you know, Ivan Sertima, many people I mentioned. And at the same time, I was very, you know, that I said, this guy saying this is just the racism of, and how can a scholar like that say write a book like that? And then actually the British press picked me up, and I was BBC, everything. I became very angry about it. All I'm simply saying to you is that we still are, you know, the system, the education system, the universities. We have universities in Africa. They are not African universities. I think the Chinese are clever. They give everything Chinese characteristics, even the politics, everything. We Africans don't give it. Our own side disappears. Our Ubuntu is not there. We have the philosophy that will save the world, like the Indians have, you see? But even India, I mean, India is better, but I'm not sure how also they are deeply also rooted in the sense that they also must value that extraordinary civilization that was achieved, and that has also to be included. We need to be like that. Unless we do that, then we have a challenge and a problem. And I think what you said is very important, but what we need is concrete action to be taken. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Research output will not, they'll be there. Even if you say commercialize, it may not be reaching the market. You see, things like that. Very strange things can happen to us because we don't know how to collaborate and do it very well. And all the actors that are needed, the stakeholders, may not, if they don't collaborate and join together, things will not happen very well. That's my suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thanks again, Prof. I hope that Prof. Marcus Ambe has been answered. If there's anyone with a question from our participants, you can just unmute yourself and then answer your, ask your question before we go to the closing. If there's anyone who would like to ask anything, they can just unmute themselves and then ask. Okay, I don't think we do have any more questions from our chat box because I was checking our chat box. There are no more questions from our chat box. Before we continue any further, I would like to ask Ms. Ginelo to please step in just to give a short brief of what is ASCA all about. Ms. Ginelo, if you're ready, you can just take us through your small presentation. I'm just going to hand you 3 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll continue with the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vinolia. Thank you, Prof. Mammo, for the insightful presentation that you've just given. Good afternoon, colleagues. Hope you've enjoyed the presentation. Colleagues, I'm just gonna give a brief description of what ASCA is all about, because we have realized that many of our attendees do not have a full perspective of the offerings or services that are provided by ASCA. So those of you that have not really found out what ISCA is all about. ISCA is a leading Pan-African nonprofit research institute. We support public and private sector organizations, including postgraduate students with research and contract research support, capacity building for SCM professionals. Our research is conducted in forms of feasibility studies, case studies, surveys and analytics, and market analysis. We have then categorized our research solutions into 5 categories, which is the supply chain intelligence, supply chain barometer, public procurement monitor, gap analysis, and the feasibility studies. And then in terms of our capacity building solutions, we have supported individuals and organizations as follows. We do technical support to postgraduate students, workshops for postgraduate students, and skills capacity building for SCM professionals. And then colleagues, for those that would love to hear more about us or just get more information about ISCA, you may kindly contact me at ginelwem@isca.org.za, or for more information, you may visit our website at www.isca.org.za. Thank you, Ms. Vinolia, for the opportunity that you've given me. Thank you, colleagues, for giving me the time. Thank you.
Let's take a picture. Be nice to see you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Ginelwe. Prof Mammo, once again, would like to thank you as ISCA Group. We would like to thank you for the time. Okay, I would like to thank you so much for your time, for availing yourself on such short notice. And again, we would like to say, even tomorrow, if we want you to to help us with presenting to our members, please don't hesitate to do that.
Colleagues.
Yes, lovely to see you, my brother Ravinder.
Bye.
Thank you, thank you. Nice to see you all. Thank you so much, all of you. Okay.
Thank you.